All right, everyone, welcome back to episode 9 of the MC Events podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joey, joined by Gilan.
Hello.
And today we're going to be doing something a little differently. As you can tell from the setup, you'll see our Discord bubbles in the top left talking, so you'll know which one it is. But we're going to be watching the Pet Championship, specifically Pet Championship 8, from its Piggles perspective, to kind of do all the things we've been talking about and put them into practice by looking in depth at this event. Are you excited for it, Gilan?
I'm very excited. This is a new format. If it goes well, if people like it, maybe we can do it a few other times with different events reacting to it. Probably not the main ones. I think we'd prefer to look at some smaller events that people have not seen, that people don't know about. But
for sure, just look at these smaller events, see what we can learn from them, what could be improved. We're going to make sure to not in any way spread any negativity toward them, what they're doing. We appreciate all the work they're putting in. So we're going to make sure we're building up and offering some ideas about how to change things if that's something they want to do. But having said that, we're going to start the recording. Gilan, 3, 2, 1, play the video. And it's going to go for about 33 minutes. You might be able to hear Piggles a little bit as I change the audio at different points. But for now, we're going to turn it down. This is them in the lobby, just, having a grand old time punching everybody.
Reminds me of Block Wars Sumo. And everyone just gets on with the fish and hits each other. I think we haven't actually talked about it, but like putting games in your lobby is a really good idea. Because a lot of times, especially streamers, they might be waiting for a pretty long time before their stream, and they might just want to do something. And also they want to make their streams more interesting.
Yep.
And wait a second, that looks familiar.
So this is the first thing that needs talked about, is the idea between, copying and being inspired by. Obviously, this took some heavy inspiration, if not semi-copying of the MCC lobby. They've obviously coded it to make it, work for them and built it to be their own style. But in this instance, it seems like a case where it's, too close, too similar.
It almost feels like a April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
And I almost wonder if it is, based off of proximity, but...
I don't think it was, since it came before that date. When I was told about this, It was like not quite end of March, but slightly a few week before that, I believe. And I think the point being that, you like MCC has a great hub. It's fun, it's cool, it makes sense for what it is. And if you want to make something similar, you can use the floating islands concept. But you should not be making the same dome block for block to then put your stuff in. As well,
definitely.
I've already seen this as I cut down the footage, so I kind of know it's coming, whereas Gilan is just going to find out as we go. But so you'll notice to the decision dome, and it's going to be pretty similar. Similar. They are going to vote differently from chickens, though, which is good, because that means, you're bringing your own unique twist to it. But I think it's a case, too, here. The build should have been more differentiated.
Yeah. And maybe use a different color for the chat bars because it looks the same as MCC's announcements, but whatever. I don't really care about that. I do. The voting areas are a bit different, though. I do like that you have these like cutouts that seem to be themed.
Yep. So they're gonna go down and then stand in their area to vote for a game, but I believe only 6 games are going to be played, and then after the team, gets. The votes are counted, Ray falls down in the build underneath of it, and then it gets tallied, and then they get TP'd to that game. But the thing that is obviously looks like it takes a little bit is actually figuring out what the game is and then getting it set up for people to get teleported there.
Yeah.
You're going to see a few cuts made in this because I cut down the footage, so we're not here for all 2 hours. So it'll be about 33 minutes. And so these 3-second fade outs are when we're transitioning, and we skipped a bunch. So this is the first game. It's called Minefield. The different colors of ground up there give you different things. Red, slow, yellow, levitation. There's jump boost, blue, speed. And there's 5 rounds. Let's just get to the end. So what's your immediate impression, Gilan?
Well, I know it's a smaller event. So it makes sense the map isn't like amazing. I would say that if they also are using default texture pack, I would say that if they had the ability to make a resource pack, it would be really nice to make all those blocks be like
Mhm.
stand out more. Also, when some of these effects, I think there should be some sort of chat message or some sort of graphic that shows. I mean, it could be like a title or something in the action bar that kind of shows like, "Hey, you got the effect." Because I saw like Pickles just died at one point during the round and just got teleported back, and there was no like sign of what happened. So like, if you didn't read the tutorial really closely, you'd be like, "Wait, what? What happened?"
Just having the having some extra text say, "Oh, you
Yeah,
died."
and it wouldn't. Yeah, it wouldn't have to be a title. It could be like a subtitle. You can make like smaller titles. So like some small thing that says like jump or like or it has like a some sort of symbol. I think that would be a cool thing to add. But I do like the idea of these short little levels. Like reminds me of like beep test where you just
Beep
have these
test
like
and
short
block lists,
back and
yeah.
forth.
I'm a
Which I like that idea instead of just one giant race that takes
Yeah.
like 10 minutes.
Well, it gives players all the opportunity to do well each round instead of if they get behind early, then they can't keep up. And it's also, in my opinion, like a very easy to understand game for like a parkour racing game. That's not, you know, the standard race, even though we'll see that, or ace race. We'll see something like that later. But this one does well to like show movement and also reward people who actually know how to use those different like potion effects. I guess they're not potion effects because block effects, movement effects,
Effects.
just effects.
Effects. Yeah.
Just effects. But so that was game one. I didn't show all 5 rounds because we got the gist, and it seems like it works well. It's just the idea of adding the extra little pizzazz of whether with resource pack, you know, more text to say what happens, or just things.
Yeah, just making sure that players are aware of what's going on, because I think it might be a bit confusing. I think that's just a general idea of like trying to make it clear, like, oh, you may have been the person who designed the game, but if someone's played this for the even second or third time, it would be nice for them to be aware of what's going on.
And so here they voted for the game again. They fell down in their place as they're about to get teleported to the next game and get it all situated. And I believe this one's called Downgrade. I forget what this one is though, because I edited this a couple days ago. Oh, and somebody crashed, and so they had to wait for them. It's also a big deal to see like how an event deals with a player crashing, or you know, something happened like that, where you kind of can how long do you delay for? And we haven't really talked about that necessarily with how you should run your event.
That's a different episode. Yeah,
that's an episode we'll get into when things go wrong, what you should do. But the case being, they seem to get back on track pretty quick and just had a place where, you know, or at a place where they could essentially pause and wait for the person to rejoin.
Yeah, I think adding in sensical pause points in your games, like naturally if you're in the middle of a round of a game, don't pause. But if you have players in like a waiting area, especially like a lobby, or even like in like between rounds of a game, you can sometimes pause for a bit. So like making sure you have that designed is very helpful. I know for events I'm working on, that's a big thing to add in early to make sure you can pause during certain points. But also like adding in a thing where it's like, okay, but if you're doing certain parts of the game, do not pause it, because that can cause problems. Like you can't pause in the middle of a fight. Like you can't just freeze the players in place. I mean, you can, but that's a bad idea.
So they're moving into Downgrade, and the idea is you have to get 15 kills. Every time you get a kill, your weapon gets worse. So similar if you played like gun game on Call of Duty back in the day in a way. So they start with an insta-kill weapon, insta-kill sword, and they'll slowly get weaker. And it's kind of weird in my opinion, because they're on teams. But now they're just, you know, all running about trying to kill everyone, even though you still have teammates.
So it is an individual. It almost acts like an individual game.
I don't think you can kill your teammates. I'm gonna check the feed to make sure nobody can. Also, the 4th item is the spammable potions forever, which no one seems to be enjoying. Yeah, from it looks like you cannot kill your teammates, and these potions
I do think
look miserable.
The concept is a good. I do like the concept of the game. I feel like some of the items are being cheesed a bit.
I think
and I feel like encouraging some sort of team play would be interesting. Like possibly adding, I don't know, some sort of I don't know. I can't think of off the top of my head, but something to encourage people to stick together and not just go crazy.
Yeah. Because the other thing I'm noticing with the potions is it just, those feel like they're too spammable, like just increase the cooldown slightly and they play a little better. And then it forces players, have to actually use them effectively instead of just getting to spleef snowball people to death, essentially. And
I also,
yeah.
I would wonder if for this game, a more tight map, like a more like compact map that has a little less open, because I think one problem right now is everyone can just kind of get into one area.
Well, everybody can see where the dog pile is, and so you
Yeah,
may
and
die, but
turn.
everyone else is going back to the same dog pile and just
But if you had
continuing.
to almost, I mean, it's not a maze, but a maze-like structure, you could break up where people
or
have a
just
fight.
more of like a labyrinth with corridors where you have to kind of run
like
down
I mean,
hallways and you'll see other people on either sides.
it'd be like a Valorant or CS:GO map, basically.
It also reminds me of like One in the Chamber, which has been a game played in Minecraft. I think it was in Minecraft Monday as well at one point.
And I do know, I think there's a Hypixel has a
yes.
one-shot game like that too.
Yeah, we've played it together.
One in the Quiver.
And I think it's just the fact like a map like that you need some, or map like for this or for that you need some level of like differentiation of where you are. Like no one's going to these buildings. The buildings look nice. It looks like a nice western town. It fits the theme, like fits the game. But now they go in a building as I say this. But they're not actually like using the buildings. It's just find the next person. And it's, they just mosh pit each other. And it seems that as people have gotten farther, so their weapons have gotten weaker, it's now taking much longer for everyone to die. So it's just becoming bigger and bigger mosh pits that go on for longer and longer.
Yeah, it's almost actually the best strategy to just get in a big group because you hopefully eventually will get a kill. That's kind of just the strategy. And it actually is mutually beneficial for everyone to get in a big
And I know what I'm about to recommend takes like a lot of work, but some way to display health might also be good. Because especially when you're using these weapons that do like half a heart of damage, it's really frustrating. And that game ended with Piggles in second, and so then we skipped ahead to them voting for the next game. But overall, it seems like a good game. I think something could be done to like incentivize team play a little more. And also map-wise, just kind of giving some more options instead of having it be where everyone just mosh pits continually.
And also, looking at the scoreboard currently, I think it's a command block event because they're using the default score things. And I will say, as a command block event, a lot of this is working really well.
Yeah. This is number 8 for them, so. And then
oh yeah, I see the number 8. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is Dashers or Ace Race or Race or whatever other game we could call it by. But it's what you expect. I'm not in any way saying that as a negative. I'm saying that that's just it's a classic movement game for Minecraft. It makes sense to have. And then it's just up to you of how you like string together the mechanics to make them interesting, or also make the map interesting to play.
Yeah.
I think we're only watching 2 laps of this just to get a feel for it. But yes, as you were saying, very much command block event to tell us that we can tell from the stuff being done. And I also think the boss bar at the very start, at the very top, is just showing how many games they're into the event.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But you'll also notice that they all complete a lap to start the race. Because when they get back to the finish line, you'll notice there's like a block that they have to run into. And when they run into that block, it counts them as completing a lap and teleports them to the other side of it to then count. So like a smart way so they don't have to worry about regions or those kinds of things. And instead, if they run into that starting block, it'll just push them through.
Yeah, it does remind me of for MCC the show when we made an Ace Race copy on the server.
We had a little practice thing for funny times.
Setting that up because I think it was Sorb also helped set that up.
And figuring out a way to do laps was hard because people can skip it in so many ways. I think it was me that found 3 different ways to skip what they had built.
And I'm pretty sure it was just tricking the game to not remove your elytra because with command blocks that can be very annoying.
Yes.
I've seen it multiple. I think it was during I think Minecraft may uses plugins, but even with plugins, the elytra is where
so many things can happen so easily with it. But yeah, you're gonna see him coming up on this finish, and Pickle's gonna run into the glass blocks, finish, teleport to the other side, complete the lap. So it's a smart way to do it. It's also pretty. It seems like all the effects they're using are like environment effects have all worked pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
I do like the map design here. Mm-hmm. I do think I like how it's kind of cool because it reminds me of kind of the newer MCC maps where when you actually think about it, compared to something like Space Race, this is much less building needed.
Yes.
It's just kind of, it's a lot of detail in a small space. And actually, I would encourage, especially if you're in an event that doesn't have you don't have people on your team who are like really good at World Edit or other like large scale building tools, so they can't create those like gigantic maps you see on Twitter, like Twitter posts, like Twitter renders of. Making just like these kind of small decorated maps is a great idea.
I think the other thing is it shows as like there's still parkour skill involved at times, and not just like movement. Like hitting the jumps and hitting some of the other things just makes it feel like more of a skill expression and not just take the best line every time. Like the best line is like slightly difficult, and it's not just like a racing line where you follow the curve or whatever. There's also a part that we missed hearing where Pickles fell in the water and he thought it would teleport him back up, but it didn't, and then he was confused, but then he just tried it back up. And he went, oh. But he thought it was going to teleport him. I don't know why he thought it was going to teleport him, because nowhere else did at any point. It was a bizarre one.
Tried it. I think you'd use it.
It was a thought process that didn't really make sense to me, but we'd have to ask Pickles. But then that race ended there. We're moving on to Shootout. It's essentially survival games, like, you know, battle royale style, but just with bows. So that comes with all the benefits and the negatives of survival games, which we know very well at this point. That when players die, there's a long time before they get to do anything. It's hard to incentivize fighting early, even though here it does it pretty well, because they don't actually do that much damage immediately because they all got resistance, which I think is a smart idea to do resistance rather than like no damage, because then you can still like impact the other team and make them afraid of you.
Yeah, I do think there's kind of that funny thing in early survival games when you can't attack a lot of times if there's a really long grace period where people just kind of stand next to each other. Or like if you're like looting chests, everyone just kind of like doesn't care. And I do think like what makes it fun is the risk of going and getting chests with other teams in the way, and you kind of sometimes lose that if there's no way to damage the other team.
So I'm gonna say here as well, they give them all players have stakes clearly, and they get stack and 32 of arrows or something, which is plenty, but it takes like 4 shots to kill someone, I believe, and then with stake healing you can get back up really quickly. And so in my opinion, it might be better if it wasn't stake, if it was a different food item, because stake, as we know, is the best food item in Minecraft for whatever reason. And it also feels like, especially for this orange team, they haven't moved from spawn essentially. Like they've moved in like 10 blocks and not been able to go anywhere. And now the border is closing in on them. So maybe the map needs expanded out a little bit, or some incentive to go toward the middle. And we're gonna see the end of the round as Pickles died there, so we skip ahead. That, you know, everyone's forced in by the border, but there's not a whole lot of good places to be, it looks like. But what are your thoughts, Gilan?
I do like the smaller map size. I feel like that works really well for for a game. It actually seems like it would be like, oh, if you have ranged weapons, can't you just make the map larger? But actually, I feel like the smaller makes it more interesting because it has that like corridors feel in some areas where you're kind of hiding behind buildings.
I agree with the smaller. I just feel like it could be like maybe 10 blocks bigger. It's like still small relatively, but a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I get that.
But that was, as I said, it's a survival game, so it has all the other things you could talk about why that's an issue sometimes. And they did play multiple rounds though, so they helped avoid some of that. And then this is Parkour Rush. If you remember like speed parkour of Minecraft Monday or other things like that, where it's a bunch of stages and just keep going. It's that, but for 12 minutes.
Ooh.
And it gets really hard, honestly. Like we're gonna watch this for a while because I left in a lot of it because it's nice and satisfying, and we can talk about other things. But this gets very difficult very quickly. And this is one of those games where it's all individual, and like parkour, a lot of parkour jumps and like harder mechanics, you either know it or you don't know it, and you're not going to be able to learn it while you're trying to do it. And so then it's hard to find a level where players are actually able to complete it, even if they've never seen it before.
Yeah, I will say that a lot of times with parkour, I guess the best way to experience is if you go on like Hypixel Housing and do some parkours. You'll probably notice you eventually might reach a level, because a lot of Hypixel parkours are like this, where it's just like level by level. You eventually reach a level where you just like, I don't think I could do this, or the amount of time it's going to take me to do this is way too long, and then you just kind of give up there. I guess that's just kind of the way that a lot of people treat parkour. The main issue is that if you're in an event like this, you just spend the next 5 minutes trying the same level over and over again, and that can hurt people a lot. Which is why, you know, if you saw MCC's Parkour Warrior changes, like that's what that was in response to. Because like the main issue with parkour is that if you're not really good at it, there is just a certain point where you have a limit, and it doesn't matter how many times you do it, you won't beat it, and it's going to be very aggravating.
Yes.
And you don't want people to be doing that for a long period of time.
Yes. It's a case of, for your best players, they'll fly through it like Dream did in Parkour Warrior, and the weaker players will get stuck in like 3-3 and just not have a good time. And so trying to balance the two sides of that is just impossible with a straight linear path. That's why the Redux of Parkour Warrior has options to then do easy versus harder ones as you're able. I forget which, it's a Neo. It's this one is when it gets difficult. Like it's a Neo onto lightning rods, 2 of in a row. And I also know that some people like have a preferred Neo side. I know I do, which I can't think of which side it is at the moment. But so if you're forced to only Neo on one side that's not your side, you might just be stuck for a long while. And that was only stage 2-5. And we are, for Piggles, only 2.5 minutes in. But I promise you, there's going to be other people that are stuck there the entire time. Which is why we skip ahead. I don't know if Piggles finishes this one. I don't think he does. But if you can already see the difficulty has ramped up considerably because he got really far. And it's a case that's really hard to balance things like this. Maybe he does make it. But it also, some of these levels are really long.
Oh, well, I guess not.
He does not make it.
Yeah, I think that's like the whole idea of like, if you look at, again, if you're thinking of making a parkour game, I would look at something like the new Parkour Warrior as a guide for a way to do it, and then like maybe think of other ways that you could incorporate the basic idea of having paths for players who aren't as good that get them less points, but at least they can move forward. Because I think what you realize is that when people are playing an event, if you're not amazing at an event, you mostly just care about playing and having fun. So it's like in that situation, it's better just to give that person something to do that's fun than to force them to do something under the idea that, oh, if you do it, you'll get a bunch of points. Like they would rather get few points, but just be able to do stuff and have fun.
Yeah.
So like if you look at Parkour Warrior now, for MCC's Parkour Warrior now, you'll notice that there's paths that are easy that don't get you as much points, but at least you can, you know, most players are able to do them and just kind of move forward.
It's a case of like end of the day, it should be fun for everyone, regardless of your skill level. And if you're able to like manage that as your bare minimum, everyone's going to have a good time and want to come back to your event repeatedly. As well for this game, it's Battle Dome, which is a very old Minecraft game in some ways. If you remember the pack playing it back in the day. Where people in this version, though, people are picking different kits that give them different items and stuff. Then they're going to fight it out in the Battle Dome. Simple as that. It also plays kind of like Block Wars' battle, or I guess you could compare it a little bit to Pandora's Box Capture Point as well, because they have kits in there. But it's another PvP game. So we've had very different PvP games. Like we had the one where they're hitting each other with a bunch of different weapons, and now this one they get to kind of actually pick their style, which I think is a good way to ensure that all the PvP games aren't just dominated by the same people. The other
I do.
Yeah, sorry, you have
I do think sometimes forcing players to use weapons they might not be as used to is actually a good way to even out PvP. Because one issue you have is that a lot of players, most PvPers will say like, "Oh, I prefer axe PvP." I mean, if you go on something like PvP Legacy, there's people who are like, "Yeah, I'm better at axe and shield PvP. I'm better at sword PvP. I'm better at PvP where we have worse kits. I'm better at PvP where we have like god tier kits." Like that's kind of how things are. So messing with that a bit can make PvP more interesting. Because I think Minecraft is a sandbox game, and there's a lot of combinations you can do. So I think like if you look at their armor right now, like it's a weird combination of armor. Like that's changing the game up instead of just having everyone in iron or diamond or something.
I was gonna say for this game as well, it looks like a couple of things I notice is that like it's really easy to tell that third partying just gonna win you. If you come up on two other teams already fighting, you just take them out. It's really easy to win that way, and it's easy to do that when you have the ability to see through walls and see people's name tags. Pickles died there. He complained also about the one of the bows having fire on it, or flame, because flame is one of the strongest enchants. Which I think,
whenever you can set someone on fire, that just means damage over a long period of time,
and
which
it messes up their sprint, it messes up their ability to crit, it messes up like everything. I'm pretty it is the arrow because he just got smacked by there. And so it's a case that it seems like it plays pretty decently for what it's meant to be. This is more the labyrinth you kind of were looking for, but I think just a little bit more to, give players something to fight over, or give them a way to keep a team from running away from them, and then they just run to another team, and then you third party that team, and then it's just that repeatedly.
Yeah, because currently, if you're a team, you just hole up in one area that you know is a good place and stay there.
Yes,
and there isn't really something encouraging you. If you look at something like Battle and Block Wars, there's the capture point. They have those little capture points. They're not like the biggest thing. Like they aren't really the main focus of the game. It isn't a capturing game, but they do encourage players to move to certain areas, like move to that center area. Even before a world border forces them to move forward.
Or even like an extraction for Block Wars when there's like little pickups and like the center that the teams can get, like the health potion or whatever. It just makes there a reason for teams to fight and kind of get positioning on each other that then gives one team an advantage when they get that positioning. Because instead what you have here is teams just position, and the only way your positioning's good is if you get them into another team, which is then just kind of awkward to like be playing for that, because also you get the other team will get points for killing that team, so you're like, I don't want them to get the points. And then this is going to be, there's no fall damage, so this is why they're not scared, and there's only a few ways up with the water and the other pathways that are all pretty defendable. But I think the whole event, because we're already getting to the end of it, I think we said our piece about this game. The whole event seems like it plays really well. Like there were no issues, and since from what we can tell, it's a command block event, unless told otherwise. That's very impressive. That was a lot of work to pull off to get these 6 games going, and I think they had 2 other games that just weren't played for this event, but they had ready. So that's
why I don't like voting.
That's why we hate voting.
That's why I hate voting, especially when you have more games that people can play.
Yes.
But I mean, they've run 8. I'm sure they'll run more and be able to play those games over time.
I think like overall big notes from us is just if they're asking, they don't have to take any advice. We're giving it freely. They didn't ask for it though, so it's up to them what they do with it. If they see this, if they don't, it's okay. This is for you to learn. It's just investing a little bit more in the polishing, whether getting a custom resource pack, getting some more stuff they can do with graphics or text to kind of say what's going on within the details to make the games a little more understandable would be helpful. And then as well, I think they could, if they ever branch outside of command blocks, I think the first thing to do would be nice is just like updating the scoreboard.
Yeah,
To
scoreboard and tab list, of course. I mean, you don't even have to change to be
to,
not be a command block
yeah,
event.
you
That can
can
be a
just have
separate
that
plugin that
supplemented
just
by a
adds it in.
plugin.
But that can just be a thing where as soon as you remove, using those red numbers on the side of the scoreboard instead, using custom graphics, it immediately kind of makes the event look more polished.
And then they ended off with all the teams getting announced their placements in order from 8th to 1st, which is a nice way to end it. I will also say, because we're gonna harp out again just as we're here in the hub, I would tweak the hub, make it more your own,
Yeah.
make it look like, yes, you're inspired by like the floating island design of MCC, but don't make it look just like it.
Yeah, right now it looks like a bunch of bees took over MCC.
But again, it looks like it went really well. Looks like it'd be a fun event to play in or watch in the future. And it just mad respect to all the people who put it on, which I didn't get the list of them. Gilan, we're gonna stall, so because I'm meant to find who made this.
Okay.
No, we don't actually have to stall. You can keep talking. But I have to go on my phone to go check up Pet Championship.
So I'm guessing this event doesn't have a finale game.
They do not.
I don't think. They do not. And I want to say that's all right. You don't have to have a finale game. Every event now has a finale game, so maybe you don't have to have one. Sometimes you could just say, well, this team got the most points in the end, so they win. And that's okay.
That is okay. I think it also just makes it a better. We know when it's gonna end in a easier way, and you don't have a game where then like 5 people or 5 teams or so can't play in.
Yeah, because then you have this kind of like FOMO of like there are people who've played in multiple MCCs who've never played dodgeball.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't actually know that, but I'm guessing that there are people who've done that. And it kind of sucks because dodgeball is a fun experience. Or I think it is. I've never actually played it, but I'm guessing it's a fun experience.
From checking the I can find them. We're gonna join their Discord server to find them real quick because we gotta shout them out. Orange Omegas, Blue Betas, helpers, trial helpers. Oh wait, there's a lot of people in the server. I'm gonna apologize for not being able to thank them, but I will put their names in the description for sure, or pinned in the top comment. What'd you say?
The admin manually placing fireworks. Gotta have a celebration.
Gotta add to the effect. I will put their names down in the chat so everybody can go follow them on Twitter and just appreciate the things they've made. And yeah, we're looking forward to see the next one. I think I recognize some of the names that could be playing in it next time. So we might be watching it live instead. And who was in first place, Gilan?
I think it was Red. I wasn't really paying attention.
Red's over on the left side.
Oh wait, that's probably the third place team. I don't know who is the first place.
It was not Piggle's team. Got second.
I think. Oh, there we go. Okay.
There it is. The yellow team won. Shout out to them.
The other pig, Mr. Pig.
And then orange team for Piggles got second. But that's where we're going to end it off. Let us know if you enjoyed this kind of format, and if we do, we might do more small events in the future to check them out and see what we can learn from them. As for next week, we'll wait to see what you guys say about this and decide what format we're going with. Gilan, sign us off.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Hope you learned something. This is an educational channel, I think. Hopefully.
Goodbye.